viewers, but we wanted to go ahead and do this. So I'll just kick us off. No reason to really go pre-live here because we'll get the views after we publish after we promote it. So this is Tour Collierville's public policy, where we are talking about all things Collierville, Tennessee. And we've been off for several weeks, so we're playing catch up here a little bit. But each week we talk about how the town is growing. It's a town just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. How it's maintaining the sense of community as it's growing. And we do this with the Vice Mayor of Collierville, Maureen Fraser, and the Economic Development Director of Collierville, John Duncan. So how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day in Collierville. I say that almost every show.
Yeah, sometimes it's 180 degrees though.
Yeah, but today is
right.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's going to be nice for sure. How you doing, John?
I'm good. Good to be back. It seems like it's been a while since we've been together. I like you, Keith. I've been out and about, but good to be back. Catching up, a lot going on. Believe it or not, I'm sure we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But life's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's I know there's got to be stuff going on, but man, I have not been following the social channels. I don't know who's mad about what. I don't know what's coming, going, and what the aldermen are doing, and I don't know what's happening.
The aldermen aren't doing much. No,
right. Yeah, budget season's over. They're just playing golf. So.
The big thing which makes me crazy. In fact, I went in and did my little own experiment. There seems to be a lot of ranting and raving about Chipotle. And I've been there twice I went there before I went on vacation. I went there day before yesterday, and people were nice. Order was correct. Food was good, in and out. So
did they have any chips?
I didn't.
You didn't order chips.
I mean, if it comes down to the fact that there weren't chips, I mean, I think like Facebook tends, we're stretching now a little bit, folks. The burrito bowl, wherever it was good. It was hot. It's what I ordered. The people were nice. It was priced right. I was in and out. So my experience there the last couple of weeks has been positive. And instead of ranting and raving about it on Facebook, which I really don't understand the point of that, you talk to the manager. And if you don't like it, then don't go there. But a lot of people liked it and will continue to go there. It really disappoints me when we treat a new business like we have been on social media, because I know there are a lot of people like me that had a great experience there and will go back.
Those people don't talk. Those people don't necessarily go out on social media and make a post about just how good it was. You get a lot more of the negativity on social media. So I haven't heard about this. So what happened? They're just having some ramp up challenges, like typical ramp up new business challenges, and they're getting ripped on social because of it.
Sounds like it. And then they let it out there on Shop Collierville, and all of a sudden they close comments. Well, why did you ever open the comments? But now why are you closing the comments? It's very, I would hate it if I was treated like that on social media about my business or my job or what I do or what I don't do or anybody. I think it's very unfair that that's what it has become. So it's either I need a plumber, I need somebody to paint my garage / all the restaurants in town are terrible. That's what it's become, and it's really aggravating. And that's why I'm not on there anymore. I only look at it occasionally. I go, Melanie, let me see your iPad. What's going on over there? I log in, and she goes, "Don't comment, because if you comment, it'll comment as me." I go, "Whatever. Let me see what they're ranting about." And typically, somebody needs a cheap plumber, is what it really is. But then there's the periodic XYZ establishment is terrible because my guacamole didn't taste right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'll let you speak more. I see you talking there, but the I need a plumber or I need something. I think that's a legitimate service. I think that's a good thing for people to go out and ask. They're moving into the community and to ask, for new things. But it's also, I think, the theme, especially Shop Collierville. There's other pages that are out there that are not themed to that, but Shop Collierville is a theme that says, hey, this exists so that we can promote local businesses and we can build up local businesses. So when people get on there and rip local businesses, it makes me want to be like, look, let me just troll you. Let me follow you around your job all day long and just make comments about how well you're doing. Let's do that. I mean, it's people don't put it in that perspective because they're paying money for something and they have an expectation of what they're paying money for. But I guarantee you that Chipotle bowl didn't cost you $100 either. So maybe your expectations of what you're looking for there.
No, I was expecting to go in there and get treated like whatever. And that was what I read in my experience were completely polar opposite. So did I go back on there as Melanie and say, hey, no, but it just confirms in my mind how things are. And it's too bad. And I think Shop Collierville, like you say, does provide a good product and service when it does come to lawn service, babysitters, get my nails done, whatever. But when they start ripping on local businesses, where I'm sort of like, okay,
it defeats the purpose of you're negating the purpose of the page when you go and do that, because it's about building businesses up and not about criticizing them. So that, if, like you said, talk to the manager, do whatever, I think that's fine. And I'm not necessarily saying, hey, if you've had a negative experience, that you shouldn't have a place or a venue or the ability to share that experience. But Shop Collierville probably isn't the place for it, because that's a place to build up local businesses, not tear them down. And so, that's the purpose of the page. So you're kind of going against the whole deal there when you start talking negatively about businesses, and it hurts more than it does good, So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. But I don't want to gag anybody if they're, if they've got a bad experience and they want to share it or whatever, or especially if you want to warn somebody. But there's other pages for that. There's Collierville Watch. There's places like that. Okay, this place isn't cooking their chicken. Don't eat there because you might get sick. Well, that doesn't go on Shop Collierville. That goes on Collierville Watch or wherever you put it, right?
Yelp
or Yelp, right? Or something, right? Yeah, something like that, right? So what you want to chip in here, Maureen? What do you got? How was your taco bowl?
What I was going to say was, I believe after that several days of bashing of Chipotle, and I have not been to Chipotle yet, I made a comment. I said, I think it's time for a positive post Friday. And then I was tagged like, okay, we're having a positive post weekend. So at that point, everything had to be positive, because my concern is, are the businesses see that? Are other businesses possibly thinking of coming to Collierville? Because several pages, they'll say, what do you need in Collierville every once in a while? And we'll see that post, and people have all these wonderful ideas. But then if they see all this negativity, will that influence them on their decision? Like, oh my God, these people in Collierville are just too hard to please, or, we're crazy. I don't know. So that
high maintenance is what you get. And, I got some of that at the magazine. we would put stuff out, we had the magazine for years, and we would get people emailing us and comments and saying, y'all are a bunch of elitists, you're high maintenance, you're, all this stuff about Collierville. And you need to recognize that other suburbs in Memphis do look at Collierville that way. They think we're a bunch of entitled people out here. And when you go on social media and you complain because your chili bowl was too hot and they ran out of chips, well, what do you think they're going to, of course, it's like Shannon and I were in a restaurant the other day, and the guy came up and we were looking at the menus, and he said, do you know what you want to order yet? And we were like, no, not yet. He's like, all right, well, when you solve your first world problem, let me know. Because that's the reality of the situation. These are not big problems. They ran out of chips. You're mad. Your face. You get to take a blood pressure pill. It's
first world problems, man.
Yeah, right.
I was in Alaska. We went to this Alaska history of Alaska, the Alaskan People Museum. You talk about hardship. You talk about a tough life. My gosh, folks, and we're worried that our Doritos are stale.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And it's like you said, John, I don't do that. If I go there and I don't like the experience, I don't go there anymore. Maybe I give it some time. Maybe I don't even complain to the manager. I'm just like, all right, I'll try again later, or I won't, or I'll go somewhere else, or whatever. But
right.
It's just it's not something to get upset about, to me, not enough to go blast somebody and try to hurt their business. These are people that are putting money and that type of things into the business. But so we want to build it up. I like your positive post idea. It's a shame that it's not all positive, that it's not an all positive type thing on a page that is made to promote small businesses and Collierville businesses. But it is what it is, but I know you get a fair share, Maureen, too, of just that this mob that is on Facebook that likes to rip all the aldermen, and you've been accused of everything from stealing money to being corrupt to falsely voting to all kinds of stuff. It's brutal out there, right?
It really is. But always have to try to remember, it's not the majority of people in Collierville. There's just a few. Yep. And you know what? A lot of times it may not even be people that live in Collierville that are making the posts that are on that page.
Right.
So, I surely don't know all 50-some thousand people that by any means. And I'm sure a lot of them don't even know what an alderman is or what an alderman does. But It's usually just a few want to be the most vocal. And so I try to always remember that it's the minority, not the majority. And, I've had issues at different places, and I try to be nice. And, one situation, I'll say it was at Slim Chickens, and I don't like mayonnaise. And so I asked for this chicken sandwich without any sauce, mayonnaise, anything on it. And that's all I got was the chicken sandwich and a drink. And I got back to the office, man, it had mayonnaise on both sides of the bun, on the lettuce, on the tomato. I was almost in tears. And so I just called them and I just said, hey, I just picked up my to-go order through the drive-through, and give us your name. We'll put it in the book. And the next time you come through, we'll replace your sandwich for you. And, they were wanting me to come back right then. And I'm like, no, it's okay. So I took napkins and just kind of soaked all the mayonnaise and ate part of it. But anyway.
And
but
then you broke out in hives the next day because you're
No.
allergic to mayonnaise.
It's just
Right.
personal preference. But
But
why didn't you go out and
handled
rip? But Maureen, that was the perfect opportunity for you to go out and rip Slim Chickens and get a bunch of people liking your comments on social media. Why did you miss that opportunity, Maureen?
because I called, they took care of it. They were very nice and pleasant and apologetic. And, I wanted them to know. I wasn't asking for a replacement by any means. I just wanted them to know, when you have a special order, you really need to pay attention, because the receipt did say no mayonnaise, no sauce, no nothing. But
Yeah.
anyway, I could have, but I'm not going to do that. Now,
People make mistakes. I mean, it isn't, and that's what, we've all had bad experiences one way or another, I mean, it's just, but you're exactly right though. I mean, if people would think, okay, I want new places to come, I wanted Chipotle to come, I want new businesses to come, I want new restaurants to come. Every time that you go out and you rip it, it's just like you said, that lessens the likelihood that someone else is going to come, because no business owner, no franchise owner is going to say, and this is, you get into it and you look back and you say, okay, I think I want to come to Collierville. All right, well, first off, the regulations and what it takes to buy and build there is strenuous. So it's hard from the builder standpoint. And we know all the right reasons why that is, right? But I've got to go through all these hoops to get there. I've got to get all these things approved, and I got to follow these regulations. I might have to use brick when everywhere else I use something else. So I got to go through all those hoops, right? And then I'm going to open up. And if I'm not perfect, then I might get ripped on social media, or if I have problems, then because this crowd is tough, the public is tough as well. And then the public comes back on Facebook and says, these businesses are going out of business. What's wrong with the town? And you're like, well, come on. They jumped through every hoop to get here. And then once they got here and they finally now we can open up and actually get some income coming in. Well, I left the chips out a little too long. And so I'm getting ripped. And now people aren't coming to my restaurant anymore. And then they're going to wonder why we closed. And so it's a vicious cycle there that is just, people aren't thinking it through. And if I'm another restaurant and I'm looking at all that and I'm seeing what just happened to this business owner when they opened, I'm not touching Collierville with a 10-foot pole.
Well, and Keith, I think I'll agree on one thing about people looking at Facebook. And, we talk about we want local. The people that are more apt to look at Facebook are the local people, not some site selector with Portillo's in Salt Lake City, Utah. He's not looking at Shop Collierville, but it's the local franchisee who I think we want, locally owned businesses. They're the ones that are most likely to look at that stuff versus some guy in Chicago. He's not going to look at that. So, it really does touch the people we act like we want here in town more than the corporate guy. So I think that's a valid point.
It does. I mean, it's tough. And so the question circles back, because we had conversations like this when we started this years ago, right? But it wasn't to the extent that we're seeing it today. There was a lot of forward momentum, and I know COVID changed things, but when we were on the radio and stuff, but there was forward momentum. It was upbeat. You didn't see as much of this stuff on social media. People weren't as critical. And I know that, what's happened over the last few years has caused a lot of divisiveness, but I'm going to ask the question, because what we've said here time and time again is that Collierville can grow, and it doesn't matter if Collierville grows. We can get everything we want as long as we maintain that sense of small town community, as long as we continue to love each other and we continue to be community based. Are we seeing cracks in that community now because of what we're seeing out there? Are people more mean? Are people more divided? I mean, is what's happening in the nation affecting us as a small town? Are we losing that sense of community that we've all said here? All three of us said that's required. We have to maintain this sense of community if we're going to grow in Collierville to be the same thing. Are we losing it?
I don't think we're losing it. I think that there's that small minority that is trying to be vocal and trying to crack it. But you look at all of
Let me
these.
clarify. Let me clarify, Maureen, just so that we don't get off base. When you say minority, you're not talking about any class of people or race of people.
No,
You're talking about a small number of people on social media. I just want to. I understood that, but things get taken out of context. So for all your benefit and all our benefit, I want to clarify that.
But you look at too, we are a small town. You look at all of these businesses. They're the businesses that are being hit up by every PTA, every nonprofit, every group that's in Collierville wanting donations. So we have to support our local businesses, because we can go to a business like Chipotle or Slim Chickens or Square Beans or any of business and say, okay, I'm a representative of such and such a school. We're doing a silent auction. Can you make a donation? I've gotten letters personally from probably most of the PTAs wanting me to be a sponsor for one of their fundraisers. So we know the local, they're not going to send that to, they may try to send it to a FedEx or a carrier or Portillo's in Chicago, but it's the local businesses that support the local schools. And we have to have that small town. We have to support each other. As you know, I'm working on the committee for the Collierville Balloon Festival. We're expecting, that's a small town. That's a big event in a small town that will be September 16th and 17th. But we have an amazing number of sponsors that are supporting that, plus a lot of small businesses that are going to have booths at the Balloon Festival. So we need to support them and thank them for being a participant in the Balloon Festival. After the Balloon Festival, you have the Arts in the Alley with the Collierville Arts Council. Local banks, local mortgage companies, Patriot Bank Mortgage and Patriot Bank are sponsoring the Arts in the Alley. And that's a fun event open to the community. You talk about a small town event in the alley behind the north side of the square. And then after that, you have Main Street Collierville, a nonprofit that is putting on their Taste of the Town. So the Taste of the Town, they invite restaurants, local restaurants, to come, and they serve and they donate. They're supposed to be bringing like enough food for 450 people. So you have all these restaurants that want to give back. It's exposure for them, but we have to give and take. We have to support them for them to support all of these community nonprofit groups. So
and it is.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, John.
Finish your statement.
Well, I was going to say, we're still very much a small town. We can't let anything crack that. And I know many of us work hard to keep it that way.
Yeah, and Keith, we just hit 55,000 in population. That's a small town.
Yeah,
and like Maureen said,
right.
These events, the music on the square, the Christmas parade, the tree lighting, the churches, the neighborhoods, the parks, the people. It's a small town. And Maureen, I guarantee you, at Arts in the Alley, which is coming up, I think, in 3 weeks, I'm probably going to know at least 2/3 of the people there, maybe more. I mean, if I was at this same event in Dallas or Atlanta, probably wouldn't know 15% of the people. So in many, many, many ways, this is still a small town. I think what people need to realize, we're a small town that punches way above its weight, with the school, the corporate headquarters, the industrial growth that's getting ready to happen. And we can talk about that. Things like Schilling, Jason Cruz's the park, what Bahalia people are wanting to invest in this small town, and the things that are happening. People, I said this before, are you 100,000, 150,000 population? No, barely 55. So we are a small town, but there are things happening that are pretty dynamic, but it is still, at the end of the day, I hate saying that, such a cliche, but it is still a small town. And I think we've done a good job in balancing innovation with tradition.
Yeah, I think that all the things are still happening, and I'm not trying to critique. It's a genuine question to see this. You walk around with this sense of community, with this sense of these are my neighbors, and Collierville is this tight knit community that kind of is different than all of the ones that are around us, and you kind of have this proud to live here, and that this kind of feeling, and I'm just asking, when we harp on some of these negative things that we're seeing, do you think that any of that stuff is starting to break down that feeling of neighbor type stuff? Because it's a sense, it's a theme. It's not really about how much the population are. Technically, yes, we're a small town, but are we behaving like one? And I think we need to, remember that. And I think that all of our audience needs to remember that when you're going out, when you're interacting in the community, when you're interacting with small businesses, that you're playing a role here. You're not just a taker. You don't build a community because you move here and take, right? That's not what it's about. If you're going to move here and you want to maintain that it's a community, then you need to participate. And that starts with being nice, and that starts with understanding that every post I make and every comment that I make could have possibly affect the town. You have a responsibility as a citizen of the town. You can't just be taking from it. It's not just about paying taxes, right? But so that's what I'm getting at, is that we've got to try, everybody's got to try, and you got to be conscious of that. In everything you do, when you say hi to the person at Kroger, when you let the person in front of you in line, when you're in your car and you decide, I'm going to let this person over, as opposed to honk and give the bird, all of those things, play into what makes a community, right? And so that was kind of the core of my question, is when we start to see more and more of this, because we didn't see as much of it a few years back. We saw some stuff on Facebook and we would talk about it a little bit, but it was overwhelmingly positive at that point in time. I mean, there was some negative, but now the community is flipping a little bit. And what do we need to do to remind people that, hey, you've got a responsibility here, and you might be starting to put some cracks in our armor. And those cracks, by the way, they're going to hurt your real estate values more than any apartment that would ever come in or anything like that. When you start breaking down the community feel, that's when we're going to start to have problems, and all the things you care about that you're complaining about are going to come to fruition.
You're making a great point, Keith. You're exactly right. What are you doing to leave it better than you found it? What are you sprinkling around that's going to make this a better place for you and for your family and for your kids and for your neighbors and those that are coming next behind you? Get involved, be part of it in a positive way. I mean, that's a great thought process, Keith, for sure. I agree.
Yeah, it's just what's required. I think it's what's required here. And if we can model that here, it's definitely what's required nationally too. And we got some problems, and so I think that, I don't know what we can do other than say it on the air and hope people listen. We said it time and time again. You make a post, you're going to cause problems. You're negative, it's going to cause problems bigger than what you think the post is. I don't know what else we can do. I'm open to ideas, but I like your positive weekend on social media. Let's have the town do a positive weekend in daily interactions. Everybody shake somebody's hand this weekend when you're out and about. Do something, because we've got to get to know our neighbors and start and support. Like you said, small businesses are out there. They're getting hit, donating, doing everything they can to support the town. Believe me, I know. They are getting hit with it, and then they're getting slammed. I mean, come on, guys, we can do better. We just can't.
Well said.
As you know, my parents always said, I'm sure you guys heard the same thing, treat others as you want to be treated. And, there's sometimes I will respond to something and then I don't send it. Sometimes I type it and then I have to hold myself back, because you have to look at what the repercussions would be. And sometimes it's just not worth getting involved in. It's just kind of like, like you, John, you just kind of take a step back and you read it and you understand it. Sometimes it is hurtful, but sometimes you just have to try to do your best to ignore it and move on. And, just something fun. We're in the neighborhood I live in, Rosewood, here in Collierville, and ran into the UPS driver in Midtown. Okay. It was probably a month ago. And he's like, "Oh, Miss Fraser, you live at this address." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, he knows my address." And he has been delivering packages in our neighborhood for 20 plus years. And he told me he's retiring. Yeah. So our neighborhood was planning a nice little surprise for him. And we were going to do like Burma shave signs, on his last day. But then we found out just the other day that he is, wouldn't that be cool? We love you, Steve, thanks for all this. Because everybody, we put a post on our little neighborhood group and everybody was like, he's the best. He hides the packages. He never throws them. He just, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, something nice to do. But then we heard that he actually is retiring early. So we're not going to be able to decorate the neighborhood, but we'll come up with something better to tell him thank you. So that's small. Awesome. That's something fun to do to show appreciation for somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was like that around the square when a post office guy, our mailman, switched transferred within the post office, and he knew everybody. I mean, he's in and he's talking around. And we got a new one now. He's nice. We're great. We're getting to know him. But we'll be the same with him. But that's what I'm talking about, is having that kind of small town feel. I mean, wave to your mailman when they drop by. Find out who's delivering some of your packages. Everybody's invested here. And I will say one thing, John, to back up on something that you said earlier, because I don't, I think Shop Collierville overwhelmingly can be a good thing. And I do think that the moderators, when they shut down comments, I think that's their attempt to say, hey, this is getting too negative. And so I want to shut it down. That's their attempt. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, shutting down comments sometimes, because they're like, hey, this is enough. That's not what we're trying to do here. So, sometimes that can have good intentions, I
don't disagree.
Out there. So from running a page, but yeah, I think that those type of things that's what we've got to do more of, and we've got to forget when we're do like Maureen does sometimes, type out your comment and get your feelings out, but then don't send it, because think about, that, or send it to somewhere, else, or complain to the manager, or send it to the town. They've got a line, things like that you can do, as opposed to publicly putting somebody on blast. I mean, that's tough. And I think that, one thing that would be cool, I don't know that Facebook would allow, but like if Shop Collierville, I don't know if Kim's listening, but if Shop Collierville was able to say, look, if you've gone through, as a citizen or as a business, if you've gone through Leadership Collierville, then we can put a badge or an icon beside your name or something, so that every time you post, you're posting as someone that's got, that says, I'm vetted a little bit. I've been through Leadership Collierville, or I'm an alderman, or I'm somebody, or something, to give weight to some of the types of comments. Is if every citizen went through Leadership Collierville, I guarantee you we'd be looking at a different type of mentality out there. And I'm not just promoting Leadership Collierville. I'm just saying, understand the history, know where you live, get invested. Something like that. But I don't think there's a way necessarily to do it on Facebook. We might could manipulate it, but something like that, things like that could help. I'm just thinking out loud.
Well, and honestly, I mean, I know Kim Foster works really hard. I mean, she's got children and a full-time job, and then to be a moderator on a page, I just can't imagine. I just can't. Imagine.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, and it's and the intent there is good, but it just sometimes it gets out of hand. So and it's a labor of love too. I don't think there's a whole lot of income coming in from running that page, So
I think she's been accused of earning money off of businesses, and that is not. It's all, like you said, it's a labor of love, and it's a good place to go when you're looking for that information, as long as it's kept as a positive, not as a bashing site.
Yeah. And the bottom line is, Kimberly Foster is passionate about her community, and quite frankly, we need more people like Kimberly Foster in this community. So
right, yeah, we don't always have to agree with her, but she's out there trying. She's out there trying to contribute to the community, just like we are. And I wouldn't have a problem even if she was profiting from the page. I mean, you got something that helps to offset the time, and those type of things. I mean, if there was a way to charge businesses to post something like that, I'd be doing it. I mean, I've always run a for-profit business, so that doesn't corrupt the intent just because you open up revenue streams.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, but there's other ones out there too. But just be responsible, because I think people are not realizing the impact of what some of this could have. And if you're saying it on social media, you're saying it in your backyard too. You're saying it to your neighbors. You're saying it to people that you run into, and groups start to form, and this negativity spreads, sometimes faster than positivity. So just got to be careful. I mean, it's a shame that I hate to hear that about Chipotle. And like I said, I haven't been following along, but be conscious of what's happening out there. So what else is happening? Maureen, what's happening with BMA?
BMA is, it's been a little quiet right now. A couple of people have been out on vacation and a few trips like you guys. But we have a board meeting next week, Monday night, and we're starting hopefully interviewing for a development director position. I know the job has been posted for quite some time. I don't know. I think they've had a few interviews, but I don't know that there's been anything that has come from that I know of. Just our meetings and working on all these expenditures in our budget. We did have the last board meeting, the mayor of Germantown come over to speak to the board and thank the town for their help with their situation with their water. And he was very appreciative. As he said, their city was very appreciative of everything that John Fox and our fire department, police department, everything Collierville did to help them. And that was, like we said, that's what you do. You help each other out. So
Sure.
I know Germantown's working through that, but it's been a little quiet. Back to school. So I think a lot of people are focusing on that back to school. And we have a home football game. The Collierville Dragons are back, and I think they're playing tonight, Thursday evening this week, versus Friday because of some scheduling conflict. I believe I heard that there's a shortage of umpires or referees. I guess they're referees in football, but there's a shortage of referees that are trained to work high school football games.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we can look at that as your next career, Keith. You and John could wear black and white stripes.
Yeah.
I guess that's good too.
I might could do like one play. I think I could go 100 yards maybe one time. I don't know. not much into the cardio and running around, but
Yeah.
So, cool. So yeah, not a whole lot going on there. Like you said, back to school is happening. People starting to get back in the groove. What, John, you got anything on anything big, anything happening? Anybody looking at any property or anything happening?
Yeah. See, all the above.
Okay.
Was over at the Orgel site yesterday, just kind of poking around. If you haven't driven down Bailey Station between Winchester and Houston Levee, they're sort of west of FedEx World Technology Center. You're missing out on a pretty exciting development unfolding. The Orgel Customer Solutions Center, which is going to be at 500,000 square foot facility, showroom, product demonstration, receiving customers and prospects to our community. You can see the grading and drainage work is happening really at this point, just knocking things down and making room for this pretty dynamic facility that's going in there. So when you see that, you can visualize this, 500,000 square foot facility kind of between the Orgel headquarters on Houston Levee and the FedEx World Technology Center on Bailey Station. It's pretty exciting. And that development, it's like a $75 million deal, is going to bring others to town and drive more development, more strategic development in that part of town. So that's pretty cool.
John, I went past it. That's where the fire department had been training.
Yep.
Where it had permission to use a lot of those small buildings for training for fire. So we've had a lot of posts. Who's burning in Collierville? Well, that was a planned training. But now that a lot of those homes have been torn down back there,
right?
Wow, that's big.
Yeah, it's a big facility, and it works there, and it's going to be a dynamic asset and a great investment in our community. So I'm proud that that's happening as we speak. And then, I've got a pretty significant medical client that's looking to bring a 30,000 square foot facility to town, which is a brand we all know and love. Can't quite give you too many details yet, but I'm getting close. But it would be a $17.5–18 million investment in our community.
Nice.
A medical use that would be pretty exciting. And this group would be basically going from a lease scenario to a build to suit ownership investment in our community scenario. So I'll be able to share more details on that probably in 2 or 3 weeks, but working on that as we speak. Parallel to that, there's a group, a large industrial equipment organization that's trying to bring a multi-building facility to town. That is a $75 million investment in our community. More on the industrial side, it would be more down at that 385 and 72 part of town. So that's unfolding. We're working on that, and it would be a pretty clean, nice, large industrial user. So that's happening. And then another one that's kind of cool at basically the northwest corner of Progress Road and Shelby Drive.
Okay.
West of where the billiards warehouse is and behind FedEx Tech Connect, that Wingo property there.
Okay.
A company called MERI, MERI, which stands for Medical Education Research Institute. MERI is going to build a 60,000 square foot facility, which basically it's cadavers that doctors, medical students, researchers found out yesterday from Chief Lane that even law enforcement does work with these cadavers. So it's a technical user, but more of an industrial user. And it's a 60,000 square foot facility that's pretty significant. And there is some talk that they might also bring some of their office component out here as well. So that's a large investment in the industrial part of town. And it fits perfectly with what we're all about. It's not smokestack. It's not lead smelting. It's not 800 trucks a day. It's not glare and toxic waste. It's a medical industrial use that's going to fit perfectly. So that's happening. That's pretty exciting. Then you look over at Schilling to see the water tower district is now unfolding there behind the 12,000 square feet of retail. You know, SOB is getting their liquor license as we speak. So they're getting closer and closer to opening their doors. So there's a lot going on all around town. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. It's pretty exciting.
That's cool. Sounds like that Mary place is a way for you to continue to give back even after you've passed on from Collierville.
You know, well, many people do donate their body to science, and that's exactly what that is. And that's going to bring, kind of like the Oracle thing, that's going to bring people to town to spend the night, to go to the restaurants, to be part of the community in the short term. So uses like that, products like that, opportunities like that is what we really are looking for. So pretty pleased that that's unfolding as well.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we want to keep it going. We've talked about that, you know, jobs, industrial, those type of things. That's really the backbone of the community, right? I mean, the retail follows that. So you've got to have that strong base, and those are the things that they keep the income coming in and keep your taxes low. And so it's not sexy necessarily to talk about industrial, but it's a real deal, and it ought to be because it's a foundational thing. So things are still moving. I'll be glad to see when SOB opens. Always like to see new restaurants. So.
And you know, you got the new hotel going in just east of the Fairfield Inn that Holiday Inn Express is unfolding as we speak. And, you know, Marriott's building that Towns Place Hotel right there next to the SOB retail place on Poplar just east of Shea. So there is.
What about the cookies?
Crumble cookie. They're coming, man. Get ready to have a large, tasty brownie cookie with a slab of vanilla ice cream on it. And then, you know, after your dinner at SOB, wander over there and get your dessert, or vice versa, get dessert and then go to SOB for dinner.
Go to SOB, get dessert, then go to Crumble Cookies, pick them up for tomorrow. I mean,
right. You got the Italian restaurant going in. The Rotolo's is going in there as well. So there's things happening. There are things coming, which is exciting. And in the meantime, Melanie, Freudian slip, Maureen, somebody told me, I didn't know this till yesterday, are they going to AstroTurf fields at Cox as well, in addition to what's going on at Johnson?
Yeah, at
Johnson. Are they going to AstroTurf some fields at Cox? What are they going to AstroTurf at Cox?
All of the soccer fields in the way back will be turned into turf fields. The Parks Advisory Board for many, many years has, we've done studies and things like that. And it's called Play 365. So basically, we want the park facility to be available to be used 365 days a year. Well, when you have turf, you really don't have a rain out unless there's lightning or something like that. So all the back fields where the fire department shoots off the fireworks, those will all be synthetic turf. And then they're doing that right now, and it's moving along. And then the two fields at W.C. Johnson, the multi-purpose fields, those are being replaced because that turf is already 10 to 12 years old.
And so you're right about that, because people do utilize the AstroTurf fields at Johnson, because that's where I live. They're utilized. You're right. If it was grass, it'd say keep off the grass with the sprinklers going, but people are using the AstroTurf fields all the time.
And a lot of times I'll just use a corner, and different people will use the corner, but those are multi-purpose. Those will be marked, or I don't know that we're marking the fields at Cox Park for anything other than soccer. But there's some drainage issues also at Cox Park with some of the fields on the lower side that back up to the neighborhood there, Eastbrook. So the turf will solve those drainage problems because all that drainage goes underneath. And so it should be wonderful for everyone in the soccer community. And then the pickleball courts, those have been approved.
How many do they have? Are they going to have there?
There'll be six pickleball courts down at Suggs Park. There's a concrete
at Suggs
slab.
or at Cox? I thought were building some at Cox as well.
I believe there's 3 that are at Cox that are there currently, but they're on it's a concrete slab that was the old, many, many years ago, the skate park.
Yep.
That was taken down, I believe, before I was elected. So way back when. So they're repurposing that as pickleball courts. And then the 6 courts will be built at Suggs Park, and those should be hopefully starting anytime now, with getting those ready this fall. So there is a lot going on. I forgot about all this, and I did see where something on social media that south of Beale as well as Grisani's on the square are both looking to open toward the end of September.
Yeah, I can't wait for Grisani's too. That's awesome. I've been missing Grisani's, but 2 questions about the turf. So we've got the AstroTurf and the pickleball course. The first question is AstroTurf better for doing donuts than regular grass?
Well, hopefully no one's ever tried that. I mean, we had what did we call it? Some kind of turf gate situation several years ago where someone shoveled the ice and the snow off the turf.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Remember that? So we don't want anybody driving on the turf.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No. So were these budgeted items already, or did they just come up?
No, these were budgeted. These have been planned in our 5-year capital improvement plan project.
Okay.
So yes, and those no debt money that's been saved to pay for those.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, we got a lot going on, and I hope this show is informative a little bit for you guys. And we try to do that here. We try to bring facts, and so ask questions if you want, and we will address those questions. But a lot happening around town. You can drive around town and see some of the things that we're talking about here, and encourage you to do that. But support these businesses, support what's going on. It might be hard to support a place with cadavers. You don't have to necessarily support that in that extent, but support the industrial growth of what's happening there. Drive around. If you haven't driven around that whole Progress Road area, it's really unique. It's cool because there's a lot of open area there that we can bring in businesses, clean businesses that are going to generate income. And then even if they're distribution, they're hitting the interstate right there at 72, never going through town. It's really a brilliant way the town has laid that out, I think. So, I mean, there's a lot of room for growth there, which is probably why it's called Progress Road. But look, go all back there, check it out, and then drive through, see what's happening with the new restaurants. Awesome that we've got Italian restaurant Grisani's, Memphis name, coming in on the square, right there in the historic district. Investment in this historic district, which we badly need. So there's some good things happening. Let's talk about those things. Let's get out there. Let's give props to what's happening. Let's get fired up. Let's get moving on what's really happening in Collierville, and let's be kind. So appreciate everybody listening, and guys, we'll be back with you next week. Thanks, Maureen. Thanks, John.
Thank you.